Have you ever looked at a couple and thought, wait, how did he end up with her? You know what I'm talking about. She's young, vibrant, drop-dead gorgeous, and he's got a few grays, maybe a little salt in the beard, but also this quiet confidence that somehow makes total sense the moment he speaks. Today, I'm going to share 5 shocking reasons why more and more young women are choosing mature guys. And no, it's not just about money or daddy issues. So let's throw those cliches out the window right now. Because if you really want to understand this shift in modern attraction, it's not about age, it's about energy, intent, and the one thing that almost no one's talking about. Emotional maturity is the new six-pack. If you enjoyed this video, help me spread the lesson by liking and sharing it. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend you do so and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Comment 1 if you liked the video, comment 0 if you didn't, so I can improve and create better content for you. Now, let's dive in. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. And before your eyes glaze over, hear me out. There's something incredibly attractive about someone who just gets it. You know what I mean? That person who doesn't panic when you express your feelings, who doesn't shut down when things get tough, who doesn't make you feel like you're too much just because you're honest. That right there is emotional intelligence. And it's one of the most underrated but most desired qualities women are looking for today. Now, here's the shocking part. A lot of younger guys don't have it. Not because they're bad people, not at all. It's just that emotional maturity comes with experience. Life teaches it. Heartbreak teaches it. Taking accountability when you've messed up teaches it. And let's be real, many guys in their 20s are still trying to figure out how they feel, let alone how someone else does. But a mature man, he's been through the fire, he's made the mistakes, he's had the arguments that kept him up at night. He's learned the difference between reacting and responding. He knows that when his partner says, "I'm fine," she probably means the opposite. And he doesn't roll his eyes or brush it off. He leans in. He asks. He listens. There's something powerful about being with someone who doesn't try to win the argument, but instead wants to understand your point of view. And I'm telling you, that kind of connection where you feel safe, seen, and heard is intoxicating. For a woman who's used to dating guys who disappear when things get deep, who avoid vulnerability like it's a disease, that shift feels like stepping into a completely different world. You see, emotional intelligence is the thing that turns attraction into connection. It's what makes the difference between someone you flirt with on a dating app and someone you actually want to build something with. And it's not about someone being perfect, it's about how they handle imperfection. A mature man can sit with discomfort. He can admit when he's wrong. He can say, "I don't know how to fix this, but I'm not going anywhere." That's the stuff that builds trust. That's the stuff that makes a woman relax her shoulders, breathe a little easier and say, okay, maybe this is different. And here's the truth. For a lot of women, the bar isn't even that high. They're not expecting you to be a therapist. They're not asking you to cry during every episode of a Netflix drama. They just want to know that when life gets messy, and it will, you're not going to emotionally vanish. They want to feel like they can bring their full selves to the table without being judged, belittled, or made to feel dramatic. And most of all, they want to know that if they open up their heart, you'll treat it with care, not indifference. So when you see a beautiful, confident young woman with a guy who's a bit older, who maybe has a few more years and a few more stories under his belt, don't be so quick to assume she's looking for a wallet or a safety net. Maybe, just maybe, she's found someone who actually knows how to show up. And in a world full of emotional runners, that's rare. let's talk about stability, and not the boring kind people assume it is. I'm talking about the kind of stability that makes someone feel like they can finally exhale. Because here's what's really surprising. For all the stereotypes about women loving the excitement of a bad boy, what many people don't realize is that chaos gets old really fast. You know what chaos looks like. It's the guy who's fun for a few weeks but has no idea what he's doing with his life. The one who gives you whiplash because he's emotionally present one day and disappears the next. He makes plans, cancels them last minute, tells you he's into you but flirts with every other woman in the room just to keep you guessing. That kind of uncertainty might feel thrilling at first, but eventually it just feels exhausting. And that's where stability becomes shockingly attractive. Because when a woman has been through that cycle a few times, when she's been let down, lied to, or constantly left trying to decode mixed signals, suddenly the guy who texts when he says he will, the guy who's consistent, the guy who knows what he wants and actually shows it, that guy becomes very appealing. And here's the thing, stability doesn't mean boring. People always confuse the two. But what stability really means is clarity. It's reliability. It's knowing that if something goes wrong in your day, the person you're dating isn't going to become another problem. You can actually lean on them. That kind of emotional and practical support is rare, and it's something mature men tend to offer naturally because they've already lived through the chaos themselves. A mature man usually isn't trying to juggle 5 women at once. He's not looking for validation every time he goes out. He's not ghosting anyone because he wasn't sure how to say he wasn't feeling it. He's been through enough situations to know that honesty, even when uncomfortable, is more respectful than disappearing. That kind of groundedness is like a breath of fresh air. It's not just emotional either. Often, stability in life shows up in all sorts of ways. Financial awareness, having a routine, being able to handle stress without lashing out, having a direction. That doesn't mean he's a millionaire or has every detail figured out, but there's a sense of progress, of maturity, of someone who's building something, not running from everything. And for a young woman who's ambitious, who's putting in the work to grow and create her own version of a life worth living, being with someone who's equally grounded is empowering. It's not about depending on someone else. It's about being able to build with someone who's not going to self-sabotage the moment things get real. Sometimes people look at these couples and assume the younger woman just wants a provider or a safe bet. But what they don't understand is that it's not about being taken care of. It's about not having to carry the whole emotional weight of the relationship alone. It's about finally feeling like there's equity, like someone's got your back the same way you've got theirs. So no, it's not shocking that young women are choosing stability. What's shocking is that we ever convince them they should settle for anything less. Let's talk about confidence, but not the kind that shows up with flashy clothes, loud jokes, or a six-pack selfie. I'm talking about a quieter, deeper kind of confidence. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself to the room. Because here's what most people don't realize. The loudest guy isn't always the most secure one. You see, confidence without ego is magnetic. And it's something mature men often have in spades. They've been through enough in life to know they don't need to constantly prove themselves. They've succeeded, failed, learned the difference, and stopped tying their entire identity to how other people perceive them. And that creates a kind of presence that's hard to fake. You feel it when you talk to them. They're not scrambling for attention, they're not trying to dominate the conversation, and they're not trying to making jokes at your expense just to look clever. They're present, they ask questions and actually listen to the answers. They make you feel like your words matter, because they do. That kind of grounded energy is incredibly attractive to a woman who's used to men who seem more focused on performing confidence than actually having it. A lot of younger guys, let's be honest, are still figuring out who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all go through that phase. But during that time, it's easy to confuse ego with confidence. They think being cocky or mysterious or emotionally unavailable is what makes them attractive, when in reality, all that really does is create insecurity in the relationship. It's a defense mechanism. And over time, that gets old. Mature men, on the other hand, know that true confidence doesn't require bravado. They're not afraid of being wrong because they don't see mistakes as a threat to their masculinity. They don't need to win every debate or be the smartest guy in the room. They're not trying to constantly prove they're worthy. They've already made peace with their worth, and this has a massive impact on how they show up in relationships. A man who's confident in himself doesn't feel the need to play games. He's not afraid to express genuine interest because he's not worried about looking too keen. He doesn't hold back affection as a strategy. He gives it because it's honest. He's not in a constant power struggle. He's building a partnership. That level of confidence also creates emotional safety. When someone is secure in themselves, they can create space for you to be secure too. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You don't have to dim your light to make them feel more comfortable. In fact, the opposite happens. They want you to shine because they're not threatened by it. That's a huge shift, and one that many women don't even realize they've been missing until they experience it. And here's the part that often surprises people. This kind of confidence is incredibly sexy. It's not loud, but it's powerful. It's not flashy, but it's unforgettable. It makes you feel safe and seen at the same time. And when you've dated enough people who are confident on the surface, but insecure underneath, that real, grounded self-assurance feels like magic. So if you're wondering why some young women seem drawn to older, more mature guys, it's not because they're looking for someone to tell them what to do. It's because they finally found someone who doesn't need to impress them to be impressive. Let's get real about commitment. You'd think in a world full of dating apps, endless options, and situationships, commitment would be this outdated concept no one wants anymore. No, that's not true. What is true, though, is that a lot of people are afraid of it. And what's even more true? Most young women aren't afraid of commitment. They're just tired of being the only ones ready for it. They're tired of being stuck in this exhausting cycle. Meet someone, click instantly, talk every day, get emotionally invested, and then one day, without warning, that person pulls away, starts being vague, says they're not sure what they want right now. Suddenly, all that connection and chemistry turns into confusion and self-doubt, and the woman is left asking herself, was I asking for too much? Was I moving too fast? Was it me? But when you meet someone who knows what he wants and actually means it, it's a game changer. Mature men are often in a place where they're not playing that guessing game anymore. They've had their fun, they've made mistakes, and now they're looking for something real. They're not scared of commitment because they've come to understand that it's not a trap, it's a choice, and a meaningful one. The difference between I don't know what I want and I want you is night and day. A mature guy doesn't say those words lightly. He doesn't rush into things, but when he chooses you, it's not based on a temporary feeling, it's backed by intent. That kind of certainty creates safety. And safety doesn't kill attraction, it amplifies it. Because when a woman feels emotionally secure, she relaxes, she opens up, she connects more deeply. And that's when something beautiful starts to happen. You stop wasting energy analyzing texts, wondering if you're too much, questioning if they're still into you. Instead, you get to focus on actually building something together. Real commitment frees up space for deeper love, stronger intimacy, and true partnership. That's what so many women are craving. Not just the label of a relationship, but someone who shows up consistently. Someone who doesn't leave the second things get complicated. Someone who sees the future and says, I want you in it. Now, let's be honest. There are mature guys out there who are still emotionally unavailable, and there are younger guys who are beautifully ready for love. But in general, there's a trend. Maturity often brings clarity, and clarity is incredibly attractive. It's refreshing. In a culture that tells men to keep their options open and never settle down, the guy who can look someone in the eye and say, I've had options, I've had experiences, but this is what I want now, that guy stands out. Women aren't looking for someone to rush them to the altar. They're just tired of the gray area. They're tired of being strung along by people who want the benefits of a relationship without the responsibility of one. A mature man respects her time, her heart, and her desire for something real. He doesn't run from the word commitment. He honors it. And in a world where let's just see where this goes has become a common excuse to avoid depth, a man who actually wants something real, that's rare. That's powerful. That's irresistible. Let's talk about intimacy, not just the physical kind, but the real kind. The kind that makes you feel completely seen, completely safe, and deeply connected. Because here's the truth. Physical chemistry might spark the fire, but it's emotional intimacy that keeps it burning. And that's one of the biggest, most overlooked reasons why young women are drawn to more mature men. We often assume intimacy is about grand romantic gestures or physical closeness, but genuine intimacy starts way before that. It's in the way someone looks at you when you speak, really listens, and doesn't try to fix or judge, just understands. It's in the conversations that go beneath the surface. It's in the moments when you're allowed to be vulnerable and you know you're not going to be punished for it later. A lot of younger guys are still figuring themselves out. And again, that's not a flaw, that's just where they are. But when you haven't yet developed the emotional tools to hold space for someone else, intimacy becomes risky. It can feel like a threat. Vulnerability becomes uncomfortable, and that's where the disconnect starts. Women open up, hoping for a connection, and are met with avoidance or emotional shutdown. Over time, they start to protect themselves too. Walls go up. Communication becomes cautious. The relationship becomes surface level, no matter how strong the attraction was in the beginning. But a mature man, he knows that real connection comes from letting the walls down. He's been through the heartbreak, the disappointment, the mistakes, and he's learned that intimacy isn't something you fall into by accident. It's something you build deliberately. It's nurtured over time with consistency, with trust, and most of all with honesty. He's not afraid to say how he feels. He's not afraid of your emotions either. He doesn't panic when you cry. He doesn't mock you when you're excited about something small. And he doesn't disappear when things get hard, because he understands that intimacy doesn't survive without presence. It doesn't grow without effort. This depth of connection is something a lot of young women are deeply craving, especially those who have been in situations where they've had to chase closeness or beg for consistency. Being with someone who meets them emotionally, who shows up fully, who makes them feel heard and valued, not just wanted, is incredibly healing. It allows them to stop performing, to stop trying to be cool or chill, just to keep a guy interested. They can finally just be themselves, and that is incredibly attractive. A mature man values this too. He doesn't just want someone to fill a role, he wants to know the person he's with. Her dreams, her fears, her quirks, the things that make her laugh when no one's watching. He wants a connection that goes beyond surface level attraction. And he's willing to do the work to build it because he knows that without that depth, relationships feel hollow. It doesn't mean everything's always serious. In fact, it's often the opposite. There's a lightness that comes from being deeply connected. You laugh more, you relax more, you feel more confident because you're not worried about being too much or not enough. You know the person next to you gets you and they're still here. So when people look at a young woman with a mature man and wonder what the draw is, they're often missing the point. It's not just about age. It's not about money or status. It's about how that person makes her feel. And when you've experienced intimacy that's honest, stable, and emotionally fulfilling, nothing else compares. So, when we strip away the assumptions, the stereotypes, and the surface level chatter, what we're left with is something simple but powerful. Young women aren't chasing age. They're drawn to what age often brings: emotional intelligence, stability, true confidence, clarity of intent, and a kind of intimacy that doesn't fade when the spotlight moves away. It's not about someone being older. It's about someone being ready to listen, ready to be real, ready to show up. And in a world where so many people are afraid to commit, afraid to feel, or afraid to be fully seen, the person who's done the work to grow, to evolve, and to love with depth will always stand out. Because maturity isn't about how many birthdays you've had. It's about how you love, how you lead, and how you treat someone's heart when it's finally placed in your hands. And that is what makes all the difference.